Hi, my name is Suzanne Moore and I'm a real estate broker here in Key West. I've also been a resident here on the island for 31 years and I'm the Realtor Political Action Committee Chair for the Key West Association of Realtors. Over the last 3 weeks, I have sat down with all 9 candidates that are running for Commissioner and Mayor. Why they should vote for Sarah for Commissioner this year. Why should they vote for Bobby Lurie?
Trying to bring people together.
What I have accomplished in 23 months, my opponent hasn't done in 8 years.
That's not factual.
Okay.
It's not factual.
I asked them all property-related questions, including but not limited to housing, property rights, short-term rentals, property taxes, the workings of the building department, and all things real estate. All these interviews are available on my YouTube channel, no cuts and no edits. If you'd like to watch these, just click the link below, and I hope that these interviews will help you decide who to vote for in the upcoming elections. Today, I'm delighted to bring Mark Rossi. He's a well-known character here in Key West. We've worked on committees together over the years. And so welcome, Mark. It's really nice to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Mark, for those people who don't know you, why don't you just tell them a little bit about yourself and why you're running for City Commissioner?
Well, I'm a 45-year resident of Key West. I came here about your son's age at 20, had a job in the county jail. Worked my way up from the county jail, cooking for the inmates and everything. And one day I walked out of the jailhouse down on Whitehead Street, and there was a for sale sign for a building across the street from Sloppy Joe's. And when I was 23 years old, I knew that was the right idea and the right place to go. Of course, Key West was a very different place back then. A lot of characters, a lot of interesting people. So I've been on Duval Street for over 43 years. I bought Rick's when I was 24, and the rest is history. I mean, I've bought building property after property. Now we own 3/4 of the 200 block, which is a big job to handle. Yeah. And then I have a lot of affordable housing properties in town here that I do and build. I build a lot of, I'm a builder too.
Yeah, we're going to get into affordable housing. In fact, tell us a little bit about, you already were a commissioner at one time.
Yeah, I was commissioner from 2004, I believe, to 2016. I think 12 years, 11 to 12 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, I replaced Mary Lee McCoy, a wonderful woman, very smart woman, and she was a very good friend of mine. I bought her mother's house, so
okay.
That we were very close. And I learned a lot being a city commissioner. I was vice mayor for over 11, 12 years. So I really know the pulse of the community. I know what it takes. I know what the budget is. And I'm a businessman, so I can understand how things work.
Right. So you took a break in 2016, continued to work. And so, you've been working a long time, big, member of the community a long time. You would think you'd be slowing down. So tell us now why this year you decided to run again for commissioner this year.
Well, Susan, that's a good answer, a good question. The reason I'm running is because I really love Key West. Key West has made me what I am and who I am. And I'm a Rotarian, and I believe service above self. And I want to give back again to this community. It's been ravaged over there at City Hall. I think that City Hall needs a candidate like myself when I was there that knows how to listen and applies common sense. And I mean the word common sense to the problems that are plaguing the city of Key West.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good. Great answer. So we're going to get started right away. We're going to start talking about some property rights. That's something that all homeowners, property, people who are wanting to buy property, people who currently own property, everybody's sort of interested in this topic. We're going to talk about housing. So Key West has very little land left. And if we're going to create additional housing, and of course affordable housing is always the big topic, especially when it's election year. We see a candidate saying, we need more affordable housing, we need more affordable housing. So how do we go about that? In your opinion, because we have so little land left, how do you think that we can create more housing in the current structure of what we've got going on here in Key West?
Well, first of all, I want to make it known that I am a strong property rights owner. I believe in property rights for who owns that piece of property. I am for not affordable housing, but workforce housing, We just broke ground on 54 units over on Point Siena. We got a bunch of units coming in over at the school board property. I'll be honest with you, I'm getting to the point where I think we're about timed out on affordable or workforce housing. You know, we have a tremendous amount of it. The lofts just opened. Matter of fact, I had one of the guys in the band who's very popular, was able to buy over there.
Right.
And have his own property and do that. You have the development that's on Junior College Road where the old mosquito control used to be. So you have a tremendous amount of workforce housing that is available. Now, is it affordable? That's the next question.
Yep, there's a lot of residents have said and over the years that the city of Key West has spent millions of dollars on these
Yes,
kind of projects.
very much so.
And yet some of them are maybe not to capacity.
Sure, look at the Flagler at Old St. Bede's there.
Right.
They have a thing that says that they're open. Look at Perry Court, another great example. But they charge a lot of money over there.
Right.
And like I said, you know, and I'll make this point to your viewers, I own affordable housing, I build workforce housing, I rent my workforce housing to employees that are in the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
And I sell workforce housing if it deems possible. I don't raise the rents of any of my tenants. I have not changed a tenant in over probably 8 to 10 years. Okay, I'm a good landlord to them. I try to be reasonable to them. And in turn, they're very good to me. They pay the rent by the first 5 days of the month.
Right.
It's a win-win situation. I don't charge an exorbitant amount of money for my units. That's just the way that I work.
Right, right. And I know that you've, developed some workforce housing over the years to help with your employees, but there seems to be some discrepancy between, what people make and, they have to be under a certain threshold in order to qualify for the workforce housing and the affordable housing that we currently have in Key West. For instance, we have a friend of mine who was a real estate agent who got some workforce housing, but he said to me, I can't make any more money this year or I'm going to be kicked out of my workforce housing, which means that basically it's a difficult situation because you want them to be successful, you want people
Correct.
to do well financially, and it's very expensive to live in Key West, but yet if they make too much money, they don't qualify.
Well, and I've heard that, and that he must have been in some federal government subsidized housing because they do set the rules.
Right.
Randy Sterling over there, who does a great job.
Right.
Wonderful, good person.
Yes, he works
Back
hard.
him 100%.
Yeah.
Knows what he's doing. They have the rules that they have to follow. I mean.
Right, right. Do you think there's anything at the local level, that we could do as,
Yeah, I can tell you right away because I'm a property owner and I do not get a break. And we've discussed this in meetings in chamber. If you have rental units, they turn into be commercial units. And once it becomes a commercial unit, it turns into be a whole different thing. The insurance costs skyrocket. Your property, you don't get homesteaded for it.
Right.
So there's a lot of issues there. If I was to be elected, and if I get elected, I'm going to work on trying to knock down some of those barriers that impede workforce housing. And I know it because
Right.
I have to pay it.
because you're dealing with it on a daily
Windstorm, fire, flood, everything. It's unbelievable.
basis. Yeah. But most of those rules are made on the state level, correct?
Yeah, 90% of them
Right.
are. I
So,
would say, yeah, or the federal
Building
level.
great relationships with Tallahassee and our elected officials is very important.
Well, I would point out that our mayor, Dee Dee Hernandez, she has done a very good job of mending some of the fences in Tallahassee
Yeah.
that were really slaughtered by the last mayor. I mean, I appreciate people. I'm the one that was with Morgan got Roosevelt Boulevard
Right,
redone.
right.
I mean, there's a lot of things that I can do, and I work behind the scenes. I'm a tremendous supporter, as you well know, of the United States military
Yes.
and their presence in this community. And I will say one thing when we get to workforce housing again, Commissioner Donnie Lee had a great idea. There's tremendous amounts of property out there at Sigs Big Naval Base
Yeah.
that can be utilized for housing. If I was to get elected, and I can say this, and looking at your people, I have been to Jacksonville Southeast region. Nobody here in this town, I guarantee you, has not have been to Jacksonville Southeast region is in charge of from Charleston, South Carolina, I believe, all the way around to Texas. It's a big naval operation. What I would do is I would ask to have a meeting with probably Donnie Lee and the mayor. We get a meeting set up with the Admiral of Southeast Region. I would send a memo to Rick Scott, who I know, Ashley Moody, who we could get, invite the CNO of the Navy down here, and convene a meeting and see what we can do to open up that property and get something done over there.
Yeah, because it has been sitting vacant there.
Right,
There's a
for
lot of
years.
buildings that have gone into disrepair.
Yep.
Yeah, there's definitely some opportunity, but it just seems that, again, it gets discussed and discussed and discussed.
Well, I'm a prover. I'm
Yeah.
a leader. That's what my thing is, proven leadership.
Yeah.
And once I set my mind to it, I'm a lot like you, Susan.
Yeah, right. Well, that's good
We're-
because, I mean, that is certainly an opportunity of existing structures that are on the island that are not being used that we could certainly, use. And then, with all of the others, I think you're right. I think that we're, over the last 5 years in particular, there's been a lot of structures, developments that have happened that has really helped. But again, as I said, there's that discrepancy between how much people earn and how much they have to, stay under in order to qualify. And those are made on a state level. So, it's difficult for us to, again, Tallahassee relationships, very important. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to say this too. I like to think out of the box. And a lot of my area as District 2 Commissioner encompasses where the new Publix is going, and over there on Northside Drive and 14th Street. There should be a rule. You can build high. What's the difference? There's Santa Clara, there's other units over there. There should not be height restrictions. If you build up, you're going to get a lot more units. And you just have to start thinking out of the box there is what has to happen.
It's a good point because it was one of the other questions we have later on, and I'm going to talk about it now. With climate adaptation, we're having to build higher, right? First floor has to go up. So every new property we build now has to be way up off the ground, but yet our height restrictions have not changed.
Yes, because it's measured from the crown of the road,
Right.
which should be changed, to be honest with you.
But that's something we can do at a local level.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, most certainly. I'm just building a new home myself. And
Right.
I raised my house, even though it never flooded in any hurricanes.
Right.
I raised it an additional 5 feet just for safety's sake.
Right. But there's two different things: residential, which I deal with all the time, and then particularly I'm hearing from builders the second floor is now lower ceilings because they're at the height limit.
Right.
And the city or the county hasn't changed that in quite a long time, not really adapting. So I think maybe it's something you could discuss at a local level. But the other thing is in Newtown or in areas that are more commercial, like the new projects that are out there with the new Publix, there's no
Go
reason.
high. There's no
reason why.
There's other buildings there that are 4 or 5 stories high.
Right.
I mean, it's ludicrous. I mean, it's time to think out of the box and do things a little differently.
Right.
And that's what I bring to the dais.
I think it's a great idea. It's something that it could be fixed. Yes, everybody has to be in agreement, and of course neighborhoods have to be in agreement, but it's a solution without, needing any more land, because certainly we don't have any. All right, we're going to move on to one of our favorite topics, which is short-term vacation rentals. And this is a question that somebody brought up to me a few weeks ago, and I thought it was kind of interesting. And it's not something that we've really talked much about, as more and more visitors are choosing to stay on boats rather than traditional accommodations. Do you believe the city should adopt a policy governing short-term lodging on vessels, particularly located in city marinas or on city-controlled waterfront property? If so, what should the policies be? And I'd like to also say most of the boats are being rented on VRBO and Airbnb short-term. And there doesn't seem to be, or not to my knowledge, that much policies controlling anything that's going on there. What are your thoughts on all
Well,
of
I
that?
live on the water,
Yeah.
so I know exactly how many people are coming in or out of the Garrison Bight area to
Yeah.
the Anchorage out there. From my knowledge as being a past city commissioner about Garrison Bight, they do rent out transient rental docks for people, but I believe it's only for a few nights they can stay on that boat. If they want to leave the boat there and come back, they can do that.
Right.
I definitely believe that, yeah, there should be some,
Yeah.
what's the word I would like to use is some,
Maybe quality control.
yeah, looking at it, just
Yeah.
like we do. The city does, there's a lot of ifs and ands about Airbnb and this one and that one. The city does do that with the code enforcement. I changed the name to code compliance. It's a nicer
Right.
name.
Right.
But they are actively seeking units that are being rented illegally for less than 28 days.
Yeah, that's another one of our questions because do you think the city is doing enough to enforce the current rules regarding vacation rentals, or would you encourage stronger enforcement? And I'd like to just mention that I do believe that the fines that are incurring by someone doing a short-term rental when they have to do a long-term, I mean, more than 28 days, I don't think the fines are excessive. But, you know, do you think the city's doing enough to, you know, police all of our vacation rentals? I mean, there's
That's
over
a good
3,000.
question. It's a
I mean,
very,
there's a lot.
very good question, yes. And should the city do more? Yeah, the city should always do more. I can't really comment sitting here unless I'm in power or in office,
Right.
and I can talk to the city manager and the code enforcement and find out what's going on with short-term rentals.
Yeah.
You know, you see Truman Annex. I was on the dais when we voted for the extension for 25 years for Truman Annex to be rentals of 28 days or more. And that disappeared, and it had to disappear. That was agreed upon by everybody. As for the rest of everybody, you know, when you live next to an Airbnb or a short-term rental and they're having a pool party at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and you got to get up and go to work, it's not a nice thing. Trust me.
Right.
I live on Hilton Haven, where I'm always checking to make sure that all the properties out there are 28 days or more rentals.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I have that experience myself in
Sure.
where I live, right on South Street.
Yep, I
We
guarantee
have
you. Yeah.
we recently had a rager that started at 1:30 in the morning, and you know, when you're sleeping and you're just, you know, thinking, oh my God, I got to go to work the next day. Who do you call at 1:30 in the morning? There's there's nobody to call. But the number of short-term licenses, just to mention at the Truman Annex, that was a lot of licenses that expired. So now we have the fewest number of transient licenses in town that we've had for a very long time,
That is correct.
which has increased the value of the current transient licenses properties. And a transient license now ranges for about $500,000 if you want to buy one, if you can find one.
Correct.
Do you believe that the city should maintain its current cap on transient licenses or expand the number of licenses in the correct zones around Duval Street? What do you think?
Well, I think we have a medium right now. Once again, I'd have to see once I get in office
Right.
to see where we're at and what we're doing. And yes, transient rental licenses have increased from 100,000, 200,000 10 years ago now to 500,000.
Yeah.
You have to go report to the planning board to move that license from one area to a receiver property from other property. But these are things that, if I'm elected, I understand these things.
Yeah, exactly. So, for instance, the reason I bring that up was 2 homeowners on the same street just off Duval. One has a transient, one doesn't have a transient. They're both zoned in the correct transient
Right.
area, but one property is worth at least $1 million more than the other because they're allowed to do transient nightly rentals in the
Correct.
correct zones. We're not talking about putting it out throughout the neighborhood. And the homeowner who doesn't have the transient license says, well, how is this fair that they have a transient, I'm next door, I can't get one, and my property is worth $1 million less? And I said, that's a fair question. Just thought, let's bring it up to, you know, the people, because some people might say,
That's a good question, and
yeah.
I guess it's the luck of the draw.
I guess.
What
I mean,
else
if-
can I say?
right.
You know, sometimes buyer beware. Buyer beware
Right.
what you're buying. I mean,
Well-
if you want to buy a couple $1 million property that has a transient license, do it. we all know what Francis Street all over in the Old Town area
Right.
is. You know, it's some have them, some don't.
Yeah, some have them, some don't. So a previous city commission proposed a policy that would have prohibited any more short-term rentals, 30-day monthly rentals. It was about 3 years ago. It was proposed that if you had one, you could keep it, but any future sales, nobody could get one. And there was a mass application for every house to get one of those $35 28-day
Yeah.
licenses. And so I know the realtors came out in full force, thought that would really affect the values of property. Do you believe in restricting future property owners? Because
Well,
I know you're a proponent of property rights.
Oh, I am. And another thing that you can only rent those Airbnbs for 28 days for 6 months. After the total of 6 times you rent it, it's done. I don't know if the city is checking on that. I couldn't tell you.
I have
But
not
I
heard
don't
that
know.
rule, and I have to tell you that I don't think that that's a rule that people are, you know, it's if you have a regular house, you can rent it as many times as you want during the year for 28, as long as it's minimum of 28
28
days.
days. But I think you can only rent it for six there is
We're
a
going to
time
have
frame.
to check on that rule.
Yeah, I do
we're
believe
going to have
that.
to check on that rule because
do believe
that's a
that.
new rule. I have not heard about that, so we're definitely going to do some.
And another thing, I'll be honest with you, you know, I have a beautiful home up in Maine, and I have to watch the amount of days that I spend in Maine. It can only be less than 180 days, because if you're there more than 180 days, you are deemed a full-time resident.
Mm-hmm.
So that's things that have to be discussed here too.
Right.
There's a lot of phony baloney going on here with people who own homes, second homes, third homes. You know, us street people and people on the other side here, we say the millionaires got bought out by the billionaires.
That's true.
And that's what's happened here in Key
Yeah.
West. You know,
But it's very difficult to, you know, I mean, think about how do you even monitor that? You know, I mean, it's hard for people to really monitor. Who's going to monitor how many days people are coming and going? It's very, very difficult to do that, don't you think?
I agree with you 100%.
You know.
There is some ways you can do it with the water meter
Hmm.
or electric meter or trash. There is ways
ways.
to do it.
Yeah.
But is there a will? Is there a will? Is there a way? That's
Right.
the $64 million question.
Well, yeah, it's definitely it's a good point. So we're going to move on to some about property insurance, and I know that you know all about it because you have multiple properties and you have to pay a lot of, you know, insurance. But the property insurance has become one of the biggest obstacles to buying and owning in Key West now. In fact, I had a customer recently who was trying to buy. It was a big house on Fleming Street, but got quoted $94,000 for a windstorm policy. And I said, well, let's shop around. Let's see when we get. The other quote was $122,000
Sure.
per year for windstorm insurance because it was not his primary residence, even though eventually he was going to switch it over. But still, that was cost prohibitive and going to be very difficult. He said, I'm not buying it.
And
you
the
know, because of
question
the
you used is primary residence. Once
Right.
again, if it's your primary resident, is cheaper.
It is cheaper.
And I will say,
But only about 25%.
I will say to the people that are watching this right now, I have friends, a really nice woman that is a waitress over at Harpoon Harry's, has the same problem. She's working 71 years old and she's working to pay her insurance and her windstorm and her flood.
Right.
You know, you can self-insure, but that has to be done. You can't self-insure with flood,
Right.
but you sure as hell can self-insure with wind. And then besides wind and flood, you got your fire
Yes.
liability.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, I just sent a check out for a piece of property on Flagler Avenue that I own, right? It's $100 a month just for the fire and liability.
Right.
I don't carry wind because I rebuilt the property, and I'm a very strong proponent of Category 5 storms, being prepared for it. And I put all hurricane resistant windows, the strapping on the roof. My new house is the house that I'm building. The guys look at me, they go, "We're coming to your house,"
Right.
because that roof ain't coming off it. And not one strap, but I double strapped it with stainless steel straps.
Right.
You have to know what you're doing, but there's poor people out there, like the woman I was talking about at Harpoon Harry's, just killing herself. And I said, well, why don't you try to see if you can't self-insure? All right, and that's the way you can do that if you self-insure. But you're always going to have your fire and liability, and if you got a mortgage, you're going to have flood. You can, if it all depends on the lender, you might be able to get out of the windstorm. But windstorm is a big killer, especially for clients coming in here
Yeah.
that you want to sell a piece of property to.
Yeah, yeah, we have been able to, depending on the value of the land, or if you're dealing with a local lender. I mean, some of the local lenders have come to the rescue on some of our deals because they've been able to, use land values, et cetera, and maybe help waive the wind if it works out. But it's, again, is there anything at the local level as commissioner that we can help folks with, windstorm and insurance? I mean, it's all kind of comes from firm. It's really or from Citizens and the other providers. It's really out of our control. I know you're a supporter of firm.
Oh,
And,
of course, yes,
what
very
they
much
can
so.
do. I mean, last year, Citizens decided that we had to have a flood policy if you wanted to be with Citizens. Then this year, they changed that policy.
Yep.
But of course, our insurance companies are not really telling us that. They're just, oh yes, we'll renew the flood policy. So again, communicating to the owner, or, to people amongst the city, what can we do to help you with your wind and your flood, if anything? If anything, can we do anything? Maybe we can ease permitting for elevating houses. That's something that maybe we can do at a local level. So we've experienced some severe rains in recent months. We had one just last month, and we had one 2 years ago. In fact, my own office, which we're located supposedly in the X-flood zone here, and this office got some water in it, some rain came in, but just from rain. It wasn't from a storm, it wasn't, so, what do you think we can do to help with regards to helping with the flooding from rains? We have lots and lots of storm drains. Is there anything else that we can do at a local level to help that?
Well, that's a good question. Sometimes when it rains, if it's high tide, and a lot of the outfalls are, there, they don't have check valves on them. Maybe they should have a check valve on them and to keep the water. And once the tide goes down, then the water can go out.
Right. There's a big pump station on Patricia Street, and certainly people don't want to have a big pump station right outside their house. But, do you think that works, or is there, I mean, we don't have anything like that in the budget, I don't think, for, the coming years. But, is that something that we need to do or need to be talking about?
What you could do is, and if I do get elected, I'll broach the situation that we do injection wells, where the pressure of the water goes in and it dissipates through the limestone and the sand, like you have over on Palm Avenue right now.
Yeah. So yeah, of course.
But they have to be taken care of.
Right.
So then, I was looking at the budget today,
Yeah.
and the budget, the general outlay, not for fire or anything, is 101 million. They're trying to do. They're going to try to cut the budget to 10 million to 91 million. And when you start doing that, then you have to start looking at what's essential to this community and what's not essential to the community.
So where are the cuts going to come from, do you think?
There's a lot of fat in the city budget, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
When I first got in 2004, 2005, we did cut a lot of the fat out of the budget. You have duplication of services that you really don't need. A lot of it too, and I want to make this perfectly clear, is you have what is called retention of, if you don't fill a slot, that money still stays there.
Right. Just going to go to the building permits, ROGOs, B-passes. You're very familiar with all of that too. Do you believe the current ROGO B-pass allocation system strikes the right balance?
Well, first of all, I don't think there is any more B-passes left.
We're very limited.
I think we have maybe 8 left,
Right.
if that. Maybe somebody should go petition the governor. We sat on some boards, and I think the city donated 100 or 200 of our B-Pass units to Island, Murata, or up to Keys. Maybe it's time to get those back
Right.
to us.
I don't know if they use them or not. So.
Yeah, I don't know, but I will look into that, and I'll be able to answer that at a future time.
Right,
But
right.
that is really one of the reasons why I'm running too for office. The planning department was so horrendous over there. So you know, the words, I don't even know how to say it. They're just messed up. And
Well,
I just tried to build
we
a
can
building.
really talk about that because I haven't really mentioned it, you know, but there's been a lot of stuff that's happened in the previous years, you know, and a lot of scandal,
Right.
a lot of things that have had to be cleaned up.
I'm a
and-
victim of it.
Right.
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
You know, I have a piece of property down on Green Street, right next to Captain Tony's. I've had it for 5 or 10 years. Tenant moves out of the building. It's right next to my building. I bought it to hook it into Rick's.
Right.
All I wanted to do was take a literal fire trap, a tinder box. I could prove you the pictures of it. Wires hanging out, wood, 30, 40, 50 years old, just decaying and rotting. The bureaucracy that I got and I received from the planning board was incredible. No citizen should have to go through that. And that is, I'll look straight to your people, that is wrong. No planning board meetings, though, you don't have a quorum, you don't have this, they put it off 2 or 3 times. Well, Susan, you're in the real estate business.
Right.
If you're building a building or something, that's tens of thousands of dollars, man.
Yeah.
They cost me a couple $100,000 because what, they didn't like me? I'm playing by the rules. I got an engineer that certified the building was a disaster and needed to be tore down. Had an architect that did that. Okay, had the city building inspector do that, but still, all I got was red tape.
So now, what's the current situation there, or do you know?
Well, Patrick Wright, from what I understand, has moved in there to take over that department or the planning department to oversee it. I think there's a lot of duplication there between the planning department and the building department. They should work together.
Right, right. We need a little. So that was another question we've you know come up with. You know, is the communication between the departments somehow? Maybe do we have some sort of easier application? You know, how do we do it? How do we ease it? Is it a city manager job? Do the commissioners get involved?
Well, I can tell you what. Everything in city government has to go through the city manager, but I can guarantee you that if I get elected, a couple of the first things that I'm going to do over there is I'm going to get us a building department back with inspectors. Right now, they're all private hires. They're good people. Ron Wampler is an incredible individual, good man. But we need to have that under our sleeve or under our wing.
You mean like the city control?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, we don't have a city attorney.
Right.
Okay, we just don't have a city attorney. We need one.
Yes, we
These
do.
are things that have been put off. There needs to be a comprehensive look at what's going on in City Hall. There's people that are running in here and saying a clean slate and transparency and all this. That's fine and good. But to do that, you have to sit down and start looking at what's going on over
Right,
there.
right.
And like I said just a few minutes ago, what they did to me to try to put a brand new building, and I'll tell you what, and you know Gary Santonzi, it's state of the art.
Right.
Fire suppression systems, everything in this building. And all I got was a fight. A fight.
So how long did it take you from the beginning?
Oh, a year and a half, 2 years.
Which seems completely unreasonable, right?
It is.
Yeah.
When you got money and you're building and stuff, and I replaced the building with a solid concrete building.
Yeah, I know where the building is.
Yeah, you know,
Yep.
it's right.
Right.
It's beautiful, but the bureaucracy and the problems at City Hall affected me as a person and businessman, and that's. I would recommend, if I get on the dais, and I'm a strong person on the dais, that I would recommend to my fellow commissioners that we need to have some workshops and take a serious look at what's going on in City Hall
Right.
with the departments. I believe there's 16 or 17 departments. That was about what it was when I was there.
Yeah.
But I'm the kind of a commissioner that when it came time to do the budgets, guess who was sitting in the city manager's conference room? Mark Rossi, looking at the numbers.
Right.
For every department.
Right.
How many photostat machines do you have? How many computers do you have? How many vehicles do you have?
Right.
These are the things that need to be checked.
Right.
And I don't think they've been checked in a long time. And there's some people that are running around here with, everything's got to be open. And yeah, I agree with that. But common sense is what's needed over in City Hall.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's see that. I mean, those are great answers. And I think, yeah, certainly there's things that need to be improved. And we'll see what, once these elections are over, we'll see what happens in the next 12 months,
Right.
So,
I mean, I don't have a problem having, I do believe there is a position in code enforcement now that checks on Airbnbs and all that. And if there's a problem with the boats, let's look at it.
right,
Let's get it taken care of. Maybe the city can make some money off of it.
right, right. So we're going to change, we're going to talk about some taxes, and Governor Ron DeSantis, proposed significant changes to the homestead tax system that could potentially reduce our government revenue. Do you agree with what they're proposing?
Well, that's a good question. I just was looking at the proposed budget. The general fund that doesn't include the police or fire departments is at about 101 million. That's a lot of money. There's a movement to cut the property, or cut $10 million out of that to take it down to 91 million.
Right.
I was looking at it. I'm not for higher property taxes. I'm a Republican, and I'm for less taxes. Do more with less. That's what I talk about. And when I was in power, or when I was over there in City Hall, that's what we did.
Right.
Because Greg Gates, it was a great man. He agreed with me, Barry Gibson, Clayton, Billy Wardlow, a bunch of us agreed that that's how we needed to run the city. Somehow that place over there, that diocese is run amok. Yeah. Okay? That's the easiest way to say.
Yeah.
Why you don't let the public into the budget meetings? What are you trying to hide?
Right.
Oh yeah, you can go for the 2 days when it's in front of the commission, but it should be open to, as long as you can get have a little security clearance. But we used to let people sit there in the meetings and hear what each department wanted.
Right. And so there's their transparency.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I know how much a lot of people don't understand. Like for a police car, you just can't go out and buy a tire. That tire has to be rated at so much speed and highway, and it's amazing. The same with the fire department. And you got to have fire trucks that work, and I'm a strong believer of the police department and the fire department getting what they want as long as it's in reason.
Right. Well, we're talking about with the new bond, they're talking about, I think was proposed $30-something million for a new firehouse. Some people say that's too much money. Some people are in agreement. Hey, it's we need to have state-of-the-art fire and police departments to keep our island protected, So what do you think about
Well, let me say this to you again. Sorry to be so candid, but if you go down to the Simonton Street Firehouse right down there, you look at the plaque on the wall, my name's on it.
Okay.
Okay?
So we
that's
can
the
say
deal
you're a big supporter.
I'm a huge. They're working in hideous conditions over at 3 on Flagler.
Okay.
It's bad. Kennedy and Flagler.
Yeah.
It needs to be rebuilt.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I'm for it.
Right.
You
Good.
can't, and the guys at the fire are ISO rated #1. So that's the thing. We're talking about insurances and stuff.
Yeah.
To your listeners or your viewing public, that is a big deal because that means that your fire insurance and everything is lower.
Right.
Because you've got an ISO rating.
Yeah. I don't think people are aware of that.
I don't think so either, but
that's a good point.
This guy is.
And that's why we're having these conversations so that these people can learn of the knowledge that you have, the experience that you have, and so they can make a very informed decision when they decide who they want to vote for in your district.
I hope they do.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you straightforward, the candidate that I'm running against is like night and day.
Right.
Okay, if you want that candidate to win, then go ahead and vote for him, and then you're going to have even more problems. Trust me.
Right.
If you get a businessman like myself and Susan, you know that. We've served on the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce for how many years together?
Oh, probably close to 10 years.
At least 10, and I've been on that board for over 30.
Yeah,
So, you know, I care about this city.
right.
And I want to make sure that we keep the ISO rating for the fire department. And Sean Brandenburg and PD are doing a great job, man.
Right.
You know, we're having two officers got burned out of their house.
Yes.
And, you know, we came and we figured something out for the first time in over 40 years. Brooks and Sloppy Joe's, we're shutting down the street, and we are going to throw one hell of a party for those officers. Is donated. The Bull and Whistle is involved. Joe Walsh over at Fogarty's, Dalen at Irish Kevin's, unbelievable. And
So tell us all when that is, because I think
that'll be this Saturday night at the 18th.
the Saturday night, the 18th. So I'm not sure if people will see this before that, but we're gonna do some PR on that event actually,
Yeah.
because that is all the funds are going to that couple who lost their house.
Yes, they lost their animals. They lost a lot of,
Yeah,
you
it
know,
was
they lost
devastating.
everything. Mike was in the burn unit in intensive care for weeks.
Yeah, it was
So,
very,
you
very
know,
serious.
it's a part of giving back to your community.
Agreed. Well, one last question, and because this has been a recent acquirement of the city with the acquirement of Higgs Beach, and I know that maybe initially you had some reservations about the city taking that on and the expense of trying to maintain that and trying to improve it. So now that it's a done deal, and should you get elected, it's going to be one of the assets that the city owns. And it's actually sort of a two-part question, because I'm sure you've heard some of the other people that are campaigning are talking about the billions of dollars worth of assets that the city has, you know, and what we're going to do with those. And also, you know, how can we use that to, you know, raise money for things that we need in the city? And what do you think the vision of Higgs Beach is for you?
Well, good question. We'll think out of the box on that one too. First thing I would recommend is let's put a fitness park in there. Fitness trail where you do pull-ups, you run, you do sit-ups. It's a perfect place for it.
Right. I think Truman Waterfront has that. So
I do not know that
Yeah,
if they do.
they do?
They do. I don't know. Another thing might be a splash pool for the kids.
Yeah.
Okay, and I believe that the road should be moved.
You do.
The road should have been moved a long time ago.
Right.
And I was at the recent meeting at City Hall 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Where they talked about the park and everything. And there's a big cry for dog park. Have no problem with that. Put a dog park in there and put plastic bags. So
Right, there's
if
a lot
the
of-
dog goes
Right.
poop, you got the bags. They're not, you know, it's common sense again.
Right. Well, a lot of
Gets
people,
to it.
when city first got it, you know, I go there a lot at sunrise because it's close to my house. And there's a group of people that go every day. And there's a little meeting at sunrise. It's all local people. You probably know many of them. And the first thing they said to me is like, oh my God, now we're going to not be able to use, you know, the pier anymore because we're going to have to pay for parking every time we come here. And I know some people said, hey, it's a great opportunity. The city does parking well. They make $9 million a year from parking. And so do you think that residents should have free parking if they use Higgs Beach?
Yes, I do. I don't even have to think about it for a minute.
Good.
I think that's one of the few things. You know, you can charge everything for everything to everybody. But once in a while, you have to give back to the taxpayers something.
Right.
All right?
Yes.
And that's free parking. You know, granted, Jim or Wilkins over there does an incredible job on the parking.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Why don't they put a 2-story, 3-story parking garage on Caroline Street? Why don't they put another one over on Green Street next to the Concord Public Seafood right there? What happened over here with on Simonton Street? It's a can of worms over there. They're fighting it, okay? Because a couple of the people over there are prominent people and they get into the year. Hey man, you remember when that had a parking garage there?
Yeah.
It was a 4-level parking garage.
Right.
It's right in the center of the town.
Right.
And I'm not ashamed or afraid to say that.
Right.
You know, these people, it's called NIMBY, not in my backyard.
Exactly. yeah.
Okay,
Well,
but-
those have been proposed many times, and we keep getting, people keep getting fighting it, yeah.
Yeah, and if you know, mentioned a very prominent person that you just mentioned his name. 10 years ago, him and I met, and another person in town. You could make that parking garage on Simonton Street by the fire station part of the community, and you'd never even know it was there.
Right, right.
But trying to lead a horse to water and make him drink is sometimes so difficult.
Yeah, 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 it is. Well, there's, you know, we seem to have gotten kind of like the rest of the country. You know, this particular election has really divided a lot of people.
Yes, it has.
And unfortunately, you know, it was always one human family. But it seems particularly, I don't know the word really, but, you know, there's a lot of people who have gone on social media and said some terrible things about their opponents. And it seems to be this is a very divisive election. I'm hoping that once the election happens, the people who are elected can bring us all together. And
Well, that's what I'm going to work on.
Right.
Trying to bring people together.
Right.
You know, people ask me all the time, well, what did you learn in your years as the vice mayor and the commissioner on the dais? And you know, the most important thing was to listen.
Right.
And to try to come to a compromise with everybody.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we all still live here in Key West. We live here because we want to live here.
Yeah.
Okay, you go down the shopping aisle, let's use Fausto's is right here.
Yeah.
Man, that's a really small aisle if you're arguing with somebody and you're trying to get a can of soup or something.
Well, yeah.
You know?
I mean, it certainly is. It seems that everyone's more vocal now and what people should be doing and who you should be voting for. So it seems to be this year more than any other year that I recall that it's a little bit, you know, bitter. There's a lot of people that are saying a lot of
Very
things.
bitter, and I'll say this, and that's part of my literature and everything. Key West, Key West.
Right.
We do not want to lose our affinity and the quirkiness of what makes Key West.
And the honky tonk now.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
it's amazing. You get these people that move here, and then they're here for a couple months out of the year, and then they want to change or something, and they get into a block. But my saying is keep Key West, Key West. And another thing that we haven't talked about, but I will say real quick, is I serve on a board for the hospital with a few people, and Jimmy Weekly, who is we've turned into be good friends over this, Mr. Peter Batty,
Right.
Mr. German, Mercy Hiller.
Yeah.
A lot of us that care about this community, Elias Gert, the doctor.
Yeah.
We care about this community. And this is something that affects your industry more than anything. If you don't have good medical care here, you're not going to be able to sell the houses. Because I can tell you, the one house next to me, 22 Hilton Haven, the people sold that house. You know why? They were worried about health care.
Right. I do hear that all the time.
I'm sure you do.
You know, people come, sort of, the average age group is really over 55 that's looking to come to Key West as a playground.
Yeah.
They're here for 10, 15 years, and then they do, if one of the couple gets some kind of condition, they end up moving back because of lack of health care. So how do you see the hospital here now in the future?
Luckily, there was a change on the board. There should be one or two more changes. I won't name names that need to go. But luckily, the chairman of that board, who's a good friend of ours, is a very smart woman. And my hat is off to her. She's incredible.
Yeah.
Key West person, grew up here, came back here, and she's just made a tremendous success of herself and her family. They got the right track for the RFP to be put out for bid. Okay, what needs to be happen over at that hospital? That building is a 70, 75-year-old building.
Yeah.
You're dealing with a 70, 75-year-old building. In today's world, the state-of-the-art computers, Wi-Fi, all the things that need to be done and modernized. So that building needs to be tore down and a new building built right there. It's very easy to do. All you got to do is open your mind. You build it in the parking lot, and then you take it and tear the other building down. You know, like I know, there's a lot of people that are transported by helicopter out of here to Miami, to different hospitals.
Yeah.
Take that heliport, put it up on the roof, make it state of the art.
Right.
we deserve great medical for our community.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, that means good doctors and the nurses and basically the crew at the hospital is very good people.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
they're just working in deplorable conditions.
Yeah,
Be
unfortunately.
glad you don't have to go there, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank God. But, you know, I mean, I've heard it from many of my customers. And that is a major concern, you know, for in the real estate profession. Then people ask me all the time. You know, we have some new doctors that are coming in, some new healthcare providers, which, of course, we're always trying to encourage. But I agree. I think that's, you know, trying to encourage. It's a huge capital investment for a new hospital. You know, so
Yeah, but there's two entities there that could absorb that
Right.
and make that happen.
Yeah.
And hopefully the board will see that and vote for the right entity that's going to operate that hospital for the next 30, 40
yeah,
years.
which would be awesome.
And I'm going to say one other thing, and I'm a modest person and I don't want to toot my horn, but while we're talking about medical care, when I was on the dais with my fellow commissioners, Billy Wardlow was one, and we were friends. If you see the ambulances that are here in town, they're all now part of the fire department, okay?
Yeah.
This is serious stuff. We used to have a private provider called the Atlantic Intercity Ambulance that would come to yours for the emergency. Wasn't the fire department. Now fire comes to your call with trained paramedics that know exactly what they're doing, that are in contact with the emergency room, and how to deal with cardiac arrest or other issues that might arise. These are important things that, you know, people, you know.
Right. So when people are thinking that, you know, the budget's too much for our fire department and our police department, we need to be thinking about, you know, these things.
You got to think about these things.
Yes, and we need to have state of the art to keep people alive, keep people healthy.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of state of the art. And I can tell you, it's changing every day.
Yeah.
But our guys over there in the fire department and the rescue side of it, they're just doing a hell of a job. My hat's off to them.
Good. Awesome. So tell us one last question, Mark. When you're not campaigning and you're not working, what do you do with yourself?
Well,
in Key West?
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a workaholic.
Okay.
If I'm in Key West, I go down to my property for a minimum of 2 to 3 hours every day,
Yeah.
Sundays included.
Yeah.
The only time I ever really get a chance is when we go to Maine.
When you get off the island, you
We
relax.
have a beautiful home in
Yeah.
the Kennebunkport area of Maine, and it's nice. But you know, when you have a big operation like I have,
Yes, you do.
I have 121 people that work for me down there. It's a big job.
It's a lot.
We run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
The only time that we're ever really closed for a little while is when we have the Christmas party.
Right. Right.
You know,
well,
and-
that's good. Well, I want to thank you so
Well,
much
thank
for
you.
taking time out of your busy day and your schedule to
Yeah.
come talk to us. And we appreciate Mark Rossi coming in, and he is running for commissioner this year. And if you have anything else that you want to say?
District 2, Key West, Key West, Key West. I have a proven track record. I can't be bought. I'll do with the citizens, and I listen to everything and then make a rational decision. So on August the 18th, vote for Mark Rossi. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, guys.